I am deeply concerned about the world in which we live. I can't believe how much we have evolved physically and mentally, and yet how undeveloped we remain spiritually. I mean, we can break any sports record that was ever set, and we will. We can live well into our hundreds. We have split the atom, we have cloned genes, we have explored Mars and the farthest reaches of space. We can do things undreamed of in human history. But we can't pick up our phone or turn on the TV and not learn of another mass shooting or senseless act of violence, or one country trying to annihilate the people of another. We're confronted with videos of our sports heroes beating their significant others. Our politicians are surrounded with deceits and lies and even criminal convictions. It seems like the whole fabric of our secular society is unraveling. And I'm afraid to say that it's not much better in the church. You know, our Roman Catholic siblings are still paying dearly and struggling to come to terms with years of sexual abuse by the clergy. Now, lest we Episcopalians get smug about that's not been our presenting problem and think we've done pretty well in the troubled seas of inclusion with both women and LGBTQ folks in our church, think again. We are at sea over so many issues. Our church in this triennial General Convention will be struggling with many of them. We're at sea over what to do about the disintegrating institution of marriage. We're at sea over what to do about racism in our society. We're at sea over what to do about an equitable distribution of the earth's resources and about our own neglect and continued abuse of this planet and all that dwells therein. And we are also at sea over our continued decline and irrelevance in society. Now, speaking of general conventions, how many here remember way back when our general convention set the 90s as a decade of evangelism? I remember that. A decade, 10 years, because we were becoming irrelevant and the church was declining in numbers. And a generation ago, we said we're going to teach our folks how to share the good news of Christ, how to be relevant to society, invite people in. Have you seen how that's paid off? Now, I have to be honest, I've been very excited to come into this diocese and see the energy here, because rather than a lot of places where there's a lot of energy about closing churches and hunkering down, it's exciting to see and be in a place where there are church plants. And I just read this week where Bishop Susan is calling for us to spend a number of weeks focused on bringing a friend to church. They're great ideas. I did that for years in the 90s and kept on doing it. There's a lot of excitement. But I hate to tell you, it ain't working. We are as irrelevant today as we were in 1990 to the society at large. And you know, every parish I've been in has been doing wonderful things, including St. Bart's, to think about how to reach out to the community, how to get people in and share the good news. But we don't have anything to show for it. Do you know what the median age of an Episcopalian is? 69. This is terrifying. It's as if we are being battered on all sides. There are gale force winds out there, and our little boat is about to be swamped. In fact, I'm afraid it's getting ready to sink. I paid them to do that. You know how quickly we forget, right? I mean, we read our scriptures, we hear the gospel proclaimed on Sunday, we say our prayers, and yet have you ever noticed how often when the wind starts blowing and the waves get big, we immediately forget who is with us in the boat? We despair, not only over the state of the world and over the state of the church, but we despair over our personal lives as well. We despair that we'll never find happiness, that our marriage is falling apart, that we'll grow old alone. We despair that we can't find the right job, that we can't get through this depression or addiction. We despair over the sickness and frailty and deaths of our loved ones and family and our own mortality. And the older we get, the more we despair over the loss of our friends and our own independence. In other words, we despair over our emotional situations, over our physical situations, over our financial situations, over our mental situations, and over our spiritual situations. We despair because we are afraid. We do not have the faith that no matter how large the waves, no matter how rickety our little boat, the Lord of heaven and earth is with us. Now, to be sure, and I have gospel affirmation for this, sometimes he seems to be sleeping in the stern, but he is with us in the boat, and that's all that matters. I mean, what is the worst thing that could happen? Do you really think that the boat is going to sink with the Lord of glory in it? And if it does, do you think that's the end of the story? We will never understand the troubled seas in which we find ourselves any more than old Job understood his own suffering, or as we heard in that first reading, why the world is the way it is. No, those why questions, I'm afraid, are beyond our grasp. But the answer to the ultimate question is sitting with us right here in the boat. Therefore, know that it is this Jesus who not only silences our fears, but silences the winds and the waves as well. It is Jesus who takes us to the other side, to the harbor we are bound for. So whatever our fears, whether it's for the world or our country as we approach this crazy election, or our own personal life, whatever our despair, let us always remember who it is that is with us in the boat. And let us feel his presence and hear his voice. Peace, be still.